Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The date is January 4th, 2021. The time is now 7 p.m. I want to wish everybody a happy new year as we begin the first council session 2021. I'd like to go to item number 2 on the agenda. I'm going to call the roll. Council President Glenn.
Here.
Councilmember Robertson.
Here.
Councilmember Zinner.
Here.
Councilmember Boyer. Councilmember Ringsacher.
Here.
Councilmember Martin.
Here.
I understand that Councilmember Boyer is taking care of a family situation with her mother right now and may be joining us later on this evening, or she may not, but, you know, family first, so we wish Councilmember Boyer the best. So, on to please join me for Pledge of Allegiance and the opening prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could ask everyone to kindly remain standing as I move on to item 4, the opening prayer. Tonight's opening prayer is submitted by Pastor Norman Obenshain of the Havre Grace United Methodist Church. Doing Pastor Obenshain's reading tonight will be Councilmember Ringsacher. Thank you very much, Councilmember Ringsacher.
Mr. Mayor, Council, let's pray. Holy One, you have blessed us with human free will to manage our own affairs, the freedom to frame our own laws, and the power to govern ourselves as a community. Give us, therefore, the patience to hear each other speak, in person or by technology, the compassion to consider the poorest and most vulnerable among us, and the wisdom to make good decisions. Allow us to pool our collective knowledge in ways that honor each other's perspective. Holy One, the old year has passed and the new one begun. In the midst of the present pandemic, comfort all who mourn the lost lives of loved ones. Strengthen those who are striving for renewed health. Protect all who work to help us heal and guide those who must make difficult medical decisions. Inspire and encourage those who are working to ship, store, and provide materials and vaccines to keep us safe. In this new year, bring a speedy end to the pandemic and help us restore and rebuild what has been lost. As the days lengthen and the cold grows stronger, protect those without homes. Give us in doing what we can to provide shelter and safety. As the schools remain closed for health and safety, guide parents and bless our students as they learn at home. Grant us creativity in finding new ways to do needed tasks. In meeting our present challenges, help us love you and care for each other, that we may strengthen the interwoven fabric of our city. Holy One, thank you for those who work day by day, sometimes at risk to themselves, to keep us safe and supplied and help us heal. Thank you for scientists who are researching better ways to stay well, medical workers applying what is learned, and those who supply what is needed for this to happen. Holy One, we divide time into years and hours, but you give us time. Thank you for the gift of moments and hours. Help us use this time wisely. This session of City Council and the year before us, that we may make the world a better place and honor you, the giver of everything. Amen.
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 Amen. Councilmember Ringsacher, thank you very much.
Mayor?
We're going to move on to item 5 of this evening's agenda, the approval of the minutes from the council meeting from December the 21st, 2020. Council to have a motion to adopt.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Zinner, seconded by Councilmember Ringsacher. Questions or comments on the city council meeting minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to approve the city council minutes from December 21st, 2020 carry 5-0 in the affirmative. Item number 6 will be comments from citizens on agenda items. This is the part of this evening's agenda. If you wish to comment on something that is on this evening's agenda, now's the time to do so. Mr. Seipold, have we received any emails or comments from the citizens to date?
No, Mayor, there are no comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seipold. Council, are there any comments amongst yourselves? Okay. Thank you very much, Council. We'll move on to item number 7 this evening, appointments. There are no appointments this evening. Item 8, recognitions. There are no recognitions this evening. Number 9, proclamations. There are no proclamations this evening. And number 10, presentations. There are no presentations this evening as well. That takes us into resolutions, and we do have 2 resolutions on this evening's agenda. First one is an amendment to calendar resolution 2020-5. Was supposed to be introduced by Councilmember Boyer, who's not here yet, so I will hand that off to the Council President, if you wouldn't mind reading it for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion to introduce amendment to calendar resolution 2020-05 concerning the memorandum of understanding with the Havre Gray Screen Team for use of 319 Lafayette Street.
Okay, I have a motion by Council President, seconded by Councilmember Martin. This is a motion to introduce resolution 2020-05 for an amendment. Questions or comments on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce resolution 2020-05 for an amendment carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Council, this is Council Resolution 2020-05, an amendment to a calendar resolution concerning the memorandum of understanding with the Havre Grace Green Team for use of 319 Lafayette Street. An amendment to resolution by the Mayor and City Council of Havre Grace, Maryland, pursuant to Section 34 of the City Charter and the Local Government Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, to authorize the Mayor to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Havre Grace Green Team as it relates to the use of specified areas of the first floor of 319 Lafayette Street. Council, I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-05.
So moved.
Councilmember Martin, seconded by Council President Glenn. Questions or comments on Resolution 2020-05? Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This legislation is for the purpose of early germination of seedlings for the Community Gardens project. It's going to allow them to get a head start on the planting season, and I recommend my colleagues to approve this amendment going forward.
Thank you, Council President. Any further questions or comments? Councilmember Martin.
This resolution will allow them, as Council President said, to start the germination process early, but it'll get them further along in their goal, which they've surpassed in supplying food to the needy organizations in the city.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Martin. Any other further questions or comments before I do the roll call vote? Okay, Council, here comes the roll call vote. Councilmember Zinner,
Yes.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ringsager,
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson,
Yes.
Council President Glenn.
Yes.
By a roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, City Council Resolution 2020-05 is adopted and approved by this council. As amended, sorry. Okay, item B, calendar resolution concerning the adoption of a geocache policy. CP.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion to introduce the proposed resolution concerning the adoption of a geocache policy.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by the Council President, seconded by Councilmember Zinner. This is a motion to introduce a calendar resolution Questions or comments on the introduction? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce calendar resolution concerning the adoption of geocache policy passes 5-0 in the affirmative. Council, this will be Resolution 2021-01. A resolution by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, pursuant to Sections 33 and 34 of the City Charter and the Local Government Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, to adopt the geocache policy. Council, I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2021-01. So moved by
Second.
CP, seconded by Council. Okay, motion by the Council President, seconded by Councilmember Zinner. Questions or comments on this resolution? Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This geocache program is a pretty big deal. It came to my awareness that we have approximately 1,300 locations currently in the city of Havre de Grace alone. With that many locations, this policy allows us to control the various locations and also prevent maybe anybody putting up any hate information or hate material. So it gives us a better opportunity to control the situation.
Great. Thank you very much, Council President, for the comments. Any other further questions or comments? Council President?
Before we vote on it, I'd like to make one amendment. On page 4, there's an application fee of $50. I recommend that we waive that fee, since we already have 13 locations in place. I think it just makes sense that we don't charge an application fee for this. Page 4,
Page 4,
106.
106, item, Section 7, application fee. You want to strike that, Council President?
Then we'll just say no application fee required.
Application fee, none required. How's that?
Right.
Okay, I have a motion by the Council President for where it says application fee on line 106, none required. Do I have a second? Okay, motion by the Council President, seconded by Councilmember Martin. This is the no fee amendment to Resolution 2021-01. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Council President Glenn's amendment carries 5-0 in the affirmative. No fee required. Thank you very much, Council President. Any other further questions or comments before I do the roll call vote? Okay, Council, this will be the roll call vote for Resolution 2021-01. Councilmember Robertson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ringsager.
Yes.
Council President Glenn.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Councilmember Zinner.
Yes.
By roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, City Council Resolution 2021-01 is approved and adopted by council. Okay, we will go to item number 12 this evening. Item number 12 is ordinances. We have 3 ordinances. All of them are second readings. We will start with item A, ordinance 1046, and that would be, Councilmember Ringsager.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I make a motion to introduce ordinance 1046 concerning amendment of the City Code, Chapter 173, subdivision requirements, Section 173-10, streets and roads, for second reading and adoption.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Ringsager, seconded by Councilmember Martin. Motion to introduce for second reading ordinance 1046 concerning amendment of City Code Chapter 173 subdivision requirements, Section 173-10 streets and roads, and second reading. Questions or comments on the introduction of this ordinance? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce ordinance 1046 on second reading carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Council, 1046 is an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Havre de Grace, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the annotated Code of Maryland and Sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter for the purpose of amending City Code, Chapter 173, subdivision requirements, Section 173-10, streets and roads. Council, I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1046 on second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Ringsager, seconded by Councilmember Robertson. Questions or comments on 1046?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Ringsager.
All three of my ordinances this evening came from our city attorney in reference to projects currently active in the city and future projects. This specific one updates the requirements for subdivisions pertaining to railroad crossings.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Ringsager. Any other questions or comments? Council, I will now do a roll call vote on ordinance 1046 on second reading. Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson.
Yes.
Councilmember Zinner.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Yes, okay, I thought you said yes, sorry about that. Council President Glenn.
Yes.
Councilmember Ringsager.
Yes.
Council by a roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative. Ordinance 1046 concerning amendment of City Code, Chapter 173, subdivision requirements, Section 173-10, streets and roads, is adopted and approved by council. I'll go on to item number B. We have another ordinance for second reading. This will be ordinance 1047. Councilmember Ringsager.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to introduce ordinance 1047 concerning amendment of the City Code, Chapter 198, Water and Sewers, Section 198-18, obstructions, for second reading and adoption.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Ringsager, seconded by Councilmember Zinner. This is a motion to introduce ordinance 1047 on second reading. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce ordinance 1047 carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Council, 1047 is an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Havre de Grace adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the annotated Code of Maryland, and Sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace Charter for the purpose of amending City Code Chapter 198, Water and Sewer, Sections 198-18, obstructions. Council, to have a motion to adopt ordinance 1047 on second reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Martin, seconded by Councilmember Ringsager. Questions or comments on the ordinance? Councilmember Ringsager.
This ordinance specifically requires a change to require developers to obtain city council approval by resolution before constructing a private road or parking pad over a city right-of-way, water, sewer, utility drainage easement, and it also came from our city attorney.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Ringsager. Any other further questions or comments? Okay, roll call vote on 1047. Councilmember Robertson.
Yes.
Councilmember Zinner.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Council President Glenn.
Yes.
Councilmember Ringsager.
Yes.
By roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative. City Council Ordinance 1047 is adopted on second reading. Thank you very much, Council. We're going to go on to our last ordinance of the evening, item C, which is going to be ordinance 1048 concerning amendment of the City Code, Article 1, Section 205, street frontage required. And this second reading will be introduced by Councilmember Ringsager.
Mr. Mayor, Council, make a motion to introduce ordinance 1048 concerning amendment of the city's zoning code, Article 1, Section 205-8, street and frontage required, for second reading and adoption.
Second.
Council, I have a motion by Councilman Ringsager, seconded by Councilmember Robertson. This is a motion to introduce ordinance 1048 on second reading. Questions or comments on the introduction of this ordinance? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce ordinance 1048 carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Ordinance 1048 concerning amendment of the city zoning code, Article 1, Section 205-8, titled Street Frontage Required. An ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Havre de Grace adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government and land use articles of the annotated code of Maryland, and sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter, for the purpose of amending city zoning code, Article 1, Section 205-8, street frontage required. Council, do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 1048 on its second reading?
So move.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Martin, seconded by Councilmember Zinner. Sorry. Okay. Any questions or comments on ordinance 1048?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Ringsager.
This ordinance specifically changes what is deemed adequate street frontage for when a public or private right-of-way, improved lane, common drive crosses over a railroad line that has been closed by the railroad, and then sets specific requirements therein for the adequate street frontage.
Thank you very much for the comments, Councilman Ringsager. Any other questions or comments on 1048 before I call the roll call? Okay, council, this is a roll call vote on ordinance 1048, second reading. Councilmember Ringsager.
Yes.
Councilmember Robertson.
Yes.
Councilmember Zinner.
Yes.
Councilmember Martin.
Yes.
Council President Glenn.
Yes.
By roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, ordinance 1048 is adopted and approved by council. Thank you, council. We will move on to item 13, old business. This evening, there is no old business on the agenda. Item 14, new business. There is no new business on the agenda. That'll take us directly to our director's report. And we will start off with the Director of Administration for City of Havre de Grace, Mr. Seipel. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council, and good evening, citizens. First of all, in Councilmember Boyer's absence, I'd like to thank the Council for approving the amendment to Resolution 2020-05 for the Green Team. I know they're anxiously waiting to get started on their little seed propagations and another banner year on their community garden. So thanks again for approving that amendment. On Saturday, January 9th, come join us for the Frostbite Trail Walk of North Park Loop. The Trail Walk is a guided nature history walk along the North Park Trail Loop, otherwise known as Joe K. Trail. It's an easy walk of 1.5 miles in about 90 minutes. It's for all ages, rain or shine. They recommend sturdy footwear, and mask will be required. Let's see, the trail walk gets underway from the Lock House, located at 817 Canestio Street, at 10 a.m. For more information, call 410-939-5780. Also on January 9th, from 10 until 11 a.m., the Arts Collective is offering an opportunity for kids and teens to be inspired and challenged by creating art projects taught by artist Laura Numson. Paint Along Northern Lights is a free online art created for kids and teens of all ages. Northern cultures, animals, and landscape and colors of the night sky will be discussed. Use acrylics on canvas or watercolors on paper or pastels. You can register for Paints Along Northern Lights at www.havre.org. hdgartscollective.org. Or for more information, you can also go to that same website and type in Youth Art Projects. Be the lifeline patients need. Give blood. The American Legion Joseph L. Davis Post 47 is sponsoring an American Red Cross blood drive event. See, the blood drive will occur on January 16th from 10 a.m. until 3. It will be at Legion Hall, located at 510 St. John Street. To donate, you need to sign up online at www.redcrossblood.org. You can search their sponsor code POST47. And if you have any questions about eligibility, you can call 1-866-236-3276. COVID-19 protocols will be in place and strongly adhered to. On Monday, January 18th, City Hall will be closed in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. City Hall will reopen on Tuesday, January 19th at 8 a.m. As such, the regularly scheduled City Council meeting typically held on that Monday will be rescheduled and held on Tuesday, January 19th at 7 p.m. And as a reminder, City Hall is closed to the public, so please use our web portal or Dropbox to conduct city business. To speak with any of our staff, you can always call City Hall or reach out via email to schedule a time. And that concludes my remarks for this evening, other than to say, go Ravens. Any of my comments will be posted on the city website if people had trouble keeping up with the phone numbers and the website addresses.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Seipel. Appreciate the comments. I'd like to call forward Mr. Shane Grimm, our Director of Planning. Mr. Shane Grimm, our Director of Planning. Mr. Shane. How you doing, Mr. Grimm? Good, sir. Our Director of Planning. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, and citizens watching. Just wanted to let you know that we had a really good month in December, and we had 9 new building permits that were issued, 8 of which were in Bully Rock, and 1 which is a replacement on Revolution Avenue. So, as I keep telling you, those permits keep increasing, and new housing starts are really improving, and I anticipate that trend to continue into next year. Also, Mr. Mayor, you may have seen an email I sent you regarding an article that said that assessments in this area are up 8% for residential properties and 2% for commercial properties. So that's also good news, and that's for pretty much the whole southern section of the county, which includes Havre de Grace. So all good news all around. I wanted to let you know that on Monday night, January 11th at 6:30 p.m., we will be holding a virtual planning commission. Those have been going very well. So that will be for a case for 550 Revolution Street, which is the replacement of what was a former boarding home with an assisted living facility. And that case will also then go to the Board of Appeals for review because it is a conditional use. And I anticipate that we'll be having other cases before the Planning Commission in the coming months. So I would ask citizens, if they're interested, to stay tuned, and if they have comments or questions, because we're in a virtual format, they can forward them to me, and I will then make sure that they get to the Planning Commission and all of their questions are answered. So thank the public for their patience as we continue in these different protocols. It looks like for the foreseeable future, but hopefully that will break at some point this year, as we're all hopeful. So that's all I have this evening. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grimm. Any questions from the council for Mr. Grimm? Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Happy New Year to you.
You too, sir.
I'd like to call forward Ms. Erica Quisenberry Sturgill, the Director of Economic Development. Good evening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everyone, and the end of 2020. Feels good to say that. So while I've been working with a number of new businesses and prospect businesses interested in opening or relocating to Havre de Grace, In the last few weeks of the year in the Office of Economic Development, we have to do a number of year-end reports for our grant funding organizations. Not only do we report back on the grants which the department gets, but also the departments that are, the grants that are passed through, facade fit-out and tenant fit-out grants that we both award and administer. So part of this reporting normally includes invitations to ribbon cuttings, grand openings for funding organizations, which due to COVID have been very small scale or by invitation only this past year. We've only had about 3 that we could actually hold. But putting together all of the demographic and employment and financial data for these end-of-year reports was an excellent exercise in realizing in a year where each month was about 17 weeks long, how much has been accomplished in Havre de Grace, especially in our downtown district. So rather than just submit the information to our state funding partners, I wanted to share it with Mayor and Council as a reminder of how much our downtown businesses and property owners have done in the recent years, this year especially. So I have some visuals of some of the things that, that occurred. TC Cleaners on Union closed due to a retirement after 40 years in business, in which few, if any, updates or renovations were ever done to the space. It was under lease in less than 30 days and has been completely gutted, renovated as an art gallery and studio space, which expands our arts and entertainment district with Bearwood designs. Bay Breeze Soap Company built up a devoted following at First Fridays in the Farmers Market before negotiating a lease for 463 Franklin Street, which had been vacant and used primarily for storage since 2010. A new owner, an active tenant, some facade improvement funds for colorful awnings to serve as signage, and the mayor and council's willingness to permit awnings over the sidewalk transformed a pretty bleak building into what you see today. Facade funds were also used as the secret sauce to transform the former courtyard shops of 2011 into Sweetie's Cakes, Adele's Bridal, Integrity Real Estate, and the stunning Havre de Grace seaplane base at La Banque on property that some folks will still recall as the dump, quite literally. On Washington Street, a total of 11 businesses had come and gone from this corner before Found Vintage Company and Joe Retro moved in, transformed, stabilized the entire corner. They're now seeking grant funding for interior improvements to the second floor, there you go, of Joe Retro. So they're moving forward on a pretty creative innovation for downtown Havre de Grace that we hope to share with you soon. The next one we think is one of the most dramatic changes as to the 200 block of North Washington Street, where the old Maryland House Apartments with a striking turret featured as part of the Arts District logo was transformed with simple repairs and paint. Then the 204 building hardware store received siding, paint, and repairs. Then 208 underwent reporting, all of them utilizing the facade program fundings passed through the Office of Economic Development. Then we're going to jump back to St. John Street. The much lamented Devo's Button Lady Emporium with brilliant colors was briefly painted black on the inside for a photography studio, you may remember, before being taken over by a high-end consignment shop whose owner had been seeking space in Havre de Grace for a little over a year with My Gossip Girl consignments. Then next door, the unbelievable happened at the State Theater. A tenant fit-out grant recipient, they completely redid the space as a functioning movie theater, performance venue with recording studios, many other amenities, including, we're told, an arcade and future. But let's go back to Washington Street and the work that has been put in at the 200 block of Washington, which led to a new tenant and business in the old hardware store after sitting vacant for over a baker's dozen of years. It went from dirt floors and bales of hay, literally, to an extremely busy furniture and gift boutique in Brookbend Interiors with the motto of love your home again. In the interest of respecting your time, we didn't include all of the new businesses like Boca Mexa Taqueria, Titty's Creations, 5 Star Studio, HMS Reptifibians, or the reopening of Glyph Fine Press downtown on Washington Street, or the rebranded opening of River City Public House, nor did we include some of the other grant-supported improvements downtown as they're ongoing. But I hope by seeing this and the positive aspect that is Havre de Grace even during a pandemic, that this starts off your year with a sense of purpose, pride, and continued passion for the city of Havre de Grace. Any question about our grant programs, what we did?
Council, any comments from Ms. Quisberry?
Mostly napping after I get done these. Thank you.
Ms. Quisberry, thank you so much for the recap. And you said it you said it very well a few moments ago. Even during a pandemic, we've had a tremendous influx of investment from businesses. And I take it as an excellent sign that the city's heading in the right direction, and I thank you for all you do to take us there. So thank you again for presenting that.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember
Hey,
Robinson.
Erica. Yeah, I just want to echo everybody's comments. You've done a fantastic job. I mean, I don't think that we have a single vacant storefront now, do we?
We have technically one. The owner is using it as storage and swears that it's open occasionally. Apparently occasionally is very, very infrequently. But we have another business owner who's negotiating to take over that space.
See, there you go. I'm just wondering if maybe we could get your rundown, like in an email or something. I assume you have it digitally. Yeah, that'd be good, and maybe some metrics on opening and closing businesses from the past year.
Absolutely.
Thank
Love
you
to.
very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to call forward Mr. George DeHorty, Havre Grace's Minister of Coin.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, council, citizens. As of this morning, the general fund is sitting just under $7 million, which is a $1.7 million ahead of budget. We started the year $1.25 million ahead of budget, so we've upped it another $350 so far for the first 6 months. This can be attributed to lower than expected salaries and benefits to the tune of about $625,000 through the first 6 months, as well as to real property taxes being about $140,000 over what we originally budgeted and expected through the constant yield. On the flip side, some of the more disappointing, although not unanticipated, the income tax receipts continue to be lagging coming in, as we all knew they would. It's about $350,000 behind where we thought they'd be. And as previously reported, the highway user revenues, we're still waiting on those to be turned into cash, but they always do. But the State Highway Administration reports they'll be down about $63,000 below what we thought they would be for the budget. But all very strong for the general fund for the first 6 months. Fund 9 is just under $1.25 million and has increased $930,000 through the first 6 months of the year. The operating profit has been just under $1.2 million. We had a $1.3 million in capital fees and connection fees, as previously noted by Mr. Grimm. We're starting to pick up pace there. And we have spent in capital projects and debt service $1.5 million to bring us to the $900,000 increase. The Marina Fund is sitting at just under $1 million and has increased $170,000 for the year. That compares very nicely. It's about $18,000 more than we increased the first 6 months of last year. And as I reported to you last time, they're running pretty much as expected, but we changed this year to paying quarterly for the insurance, and that pretty much accounts for the $18,000 difference. So that one's running pretty much as we anticipated in the budget. And so far, all systems, even for 2020 and all the other bad news, we're weathering the storm strong by being cautious and keeping everything we can open, as attested to by not only the fireworks but the whole holiday season. And people are reacting to it. So your plans are being laid out well, Council. And with that, I'll leave it for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horty, and you're right. I mean, we are weathering the storm very well. City's in good shape, and I want to thank you because a lot of it has to do with your leadership, sir, so I appreciate everything you do and your department.
My honor and privilege, sir.
Counselor, any questions, Mr. DeHorty? Sir, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to all.
Calendar New Year. Happy calendar New Year to you. I'd like to call forward Mr. Tim Whitty, Director of Public Works. Good evening, sir. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy New Year to everyone. Just give you a couple updates. We'd like to update you on the Water Street project, which is the combination of two projects. It's the living shoreline that goes from the MTBR property, across the property owned by the city at Water Street, and then up to Tidings, Tidewater Grill. So the project is basically, there's two phases or two separate projects in one. One is the boat ramp, where we're converting the old slip into a dual boat ramp parking facility and soft launch for kayaks. That project actually has been approved by both DNR, MDE, and critical area. The only reason that we're not moving forward with it is the Army Corps of Engineers, although they approved this project, tied that project into the Water Street project. So the release and moving forward with the boat ramp is also tied by design with Army Corps of Engineers to the Living Shoreline project. So we've pretty much gotten Underwood has submitted all the drawings on that project. We've addressed most of the issues. We're in our second review. The problem and sort of things that have slowed it back is we've gone through our third Army Corps of Engineer review person. For whatever reason, it's just the way things have happened, I guess, from workload. So they shifted the project to a woman who works up by Penn State University. But she's working out with us pretty well. But we do have a meeting scheduled for January 20th. We're meeting with, obviously, the Army Corps of Engineers, Maryland Department of the Environment. It's going to be a Zoom meeting, DNR, critical area, and NOAA. And then what we're going to do is we're going to explain the project to them again, and they're going to address some questions that they have on the plans. And it's going to just be an open dialogue meeting, going over the entire project, and address some of the impacts or concerns. Specifically, the SAVs are a big issue with NOAA. And so we've got to basically, to prove our case as to why this project would be better for the environment, why, we will be losing some of the grasses, the water, the SAVs, but then in the ultimate design, it'll make the environment better, and you'll get more growth and more grow back and more of a diversified plant life. Right now, believe it or not, the most prominent grass up in that area, not so much down by the Tidewater Marina and the flats, but up in this area, it's mostly that hydrilla, which is basically an imported water plant, and that's predominantly what's up and around by the Water Street. And what this project will do is diversify the environment enough, provide another, different landscaping to promote more native grasses growing in the area. And that's the point that we've got to prove. So that's one of the biggest issues that's kind of holding this project back, is the SAVs. We do have Morgan from the Maritime Museum. She actually did a study for us, just did like a grass count and what grasses were there. And then she's helping us out a lot with that as far as addressing their concerns. And basically, she's the one that pointed out that most of the grasses, while there's a lot of it up there, is mostly this invasive sort of hydrilla type plant. So we will have that meeting on January 20th, and then we're going to resubmit our plans and address any comments by February 18th. Hopefully, this will be the last go-around, and we can get both projects released. But like I said, the boat ramp project is pretty much good to go. But it's just kind of tied, and rightly it should be tied to the Living Shoreline project, because they're both going to be incorporated together, and they have to be constructed at the same time. So it does make sense that they be kind of connected together at the hip there. The last thing I want to talk about is just give you an update on the capital projects. We've pretty much got everything designed on the Aberdeen water line from Havre de Grace to Aberdeen, incorporated the revisions that Aberdeen requested as far as the water connection and the vault that they're going to connect their system into and run it down from Robin Hood Road down to Beards Hill Road. We did a study on the pressures just to make sure that, again, that we committed to the minimum 80 PSI. We're right on target. We range between, depending on the tanks that we're using and the pressures, between 102 PSI and 83 PSI. So we're in good shape as far as our agreement goes of how we're to deliver the water. So basically, really what we're now is working towards putting their, GHD's putting together the bid documents, the specifications, and we're gonna be getting this project out to bid in a very few weeks. GHD shuts down their shop during the holidays, so they were closed for 2 weeks, so they're back up and running, and we're looking to have these things, the bid documents ready to go out for bid by the end of January at the latest. So that project's moving ahead. Aberdeen's about a year behind us. Just the way the project got delayed. But obviously, the important part about this project for the city is to get down for Blenheim Farms. We need to get down there, and that's my goal. We'll take it down to Robin Hood, and we'll cap it and put the connections in, and when Aberdeen gets to it, they'll get to it. But we'll, in the meantime, capture those connection charges for the apartment complex that's going in by Blenheim Farms, and that's the reason I'm most urgent to get that down there, to capture those capital recovery charges. The National Guard pump station, I just received 90% drawings last week. Circulated them out between Joe Conaway, myself, and Kenny Montgomery. We're gonna go over and turn them around and give them back and get that project moving towards bid. The remaining projects, the 2 water line projects, they're being finished up there to 100% engineering. Same as the Old Bay Lane projects, that's moving toward final engineering. And then as well as Commerce Street. The only project that's kind of still falling behind is that Francis Street project. We've just had a lot of issues hammering it. It's been busted between root mass. It's quite the task of trying to get that thing surveyed, and so that's kind of falling behind a little bit. I think we're going to catch up in the next couple of weeks, but that of the capital projects I've got moving forward right now, that's the only one that's kind of dragging a little bit. But everything else is moving along, and we should be ready to go. And construction should really be a busy time between February and March, getting things moving and getting contractors on these projects. So that's pretty much all I have. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whitty. Councilmember Zinner.
Thank you. So you said that Aberdeen is about a year behind in terms of their...
They're about the final engineering. They're just about a year. They ran into, their biggest delay was their booster pump, the location of their booster pump system. So originally, the original concept design, they were going to put it up. I don't know how familiar, you know where Hartford Systems is?
No.
It's right down on the corner of Robin Hood and Route 40. There's
Okay, I
a
know
pump
where Robin
station
Hood is.
there. And so they were looking to put their booster pump station right there. Whatever happened, they couldn't get it to work out, the deal. They ended up moving it down to a piece of property right on, as you're going down Route 40, it's Beards Hill Road.
Mm-hmm.
There's like an empty stone lot. It's going in there. The issue is, again, they had to go through the land purchase. They had to go through council to get all that. And then on top of that, like most of it's critical area, I mean wetlands, not critical area, but wetlands. So they had to go get the mapping to see whether or not, so it took a lot of time to get that piece of property ready to see if they could develop it and put their booster pump station on it. So
is there any financial negativity in terms of, I know we're
No.
paying for our
Well,
portion and they're paying for
no,
theirs.
actually, it's not, because we're actually picking up, what's gonna happen is, although they're not gonna make the connection to take it down to Route 40, we are connecting their system into Glen Rock.
Mhm.
So we will be providing water to Aberdeen. There's gonna be, so we're coming off the water line by Hartford Systems into an existing vault that was owned by the county, that the county transferred to the city. Well, I haven't done it yet, but they promised to. So we're connecting that in. We are gonna then connect that water line and connect the Rock Glen, which runs underneath the railroad tracks, B&O or CSX railroad tracks, and feeds that subdivision. So we're gonna pick up all those subdivisions, the Glen Rock subdivision. We will be feeding them with water, providing them with water. So we will be getting revenue for what we've constructed, as well as the connection charges, the capital recovery charges for the Blenheim Farms will just about pay for this water line. So I gotta get down there.
Mhm.
That's
No,
the
I
big
understand
ticket,
that. I
yeah.
was just
So-
wondering what
Mhm.
if
So-
there was any negative.
So they're still gonna use it. There's not gonna be any negativity on it. They're gonna be using it. We're gonna be supplying them water. They're gonna be paying for it. And then as well as Blenheim Farms too, so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Whitty? All right. Thank you very
All
much,
right,
sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
I'd like to call forward Captain Jonathan Crash, representing Havre Grace Police Department. Happy New Year, sir.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe the chief will be back at the next meeting, so you won't have to put up with me for the next one. So. Just a couple things to share. First of all, the police department would like to thank all the citizens that dropped off cards and holiday well wishes and treats, and we got treated very well as we normally do by the citizens of Havre Grace. It does mean a lot to our officers and helps out tremendously with the morale, and so we do appreciate the citizens that showed a little holiday cheer to our officers by dropping some things off. So thank you very much for that. And then the other thing that we wanted to do was extend a special thanks to the Harford County Health Department. Today, our officers and staff began receiving the COVID-19 vaccination. So that began today, and so we have those several officers and staff members that will be receiving the vaccination all this week. So, it's a voluntary participation for our employees, but I think it goes a long way to give them opportunity if they wanted to take advantage of that. And so we appreciate them reaching out to us and making that available to our employees. So that's all I had for tonight.
Thank you, Captain. Council, any questions for Captain Crash? Thank you again for being here, Captain.
All righty.
All right, we'll see you soon. We're going to roll into item 16, which is business from the mayor's office. Just a couple things to report. Duck drop went really well on New Year's Eve, and the fireworks went really well, and the weather was very cooperative with us. And probably one of the best evenings we've ever had for fireworks. Skies were crystal clear. The moon was out. There was no breeze on the water. And I had many people said that they could see the fireworks from miles away from their homes, which is our intention. And the citizens that did show up, even though we did live stream the event, and I think we had over 500 people watch it live, even the citizens who decided to show up at the lighthouse that evening, we're very respectful of everybody's personal space. Everybody, for the most part, wore a mask. And that's the nice thing about fireworks is you don't have to stand 1 foot from somebody to see them. They're pretty visible from anywhere. So in reflection of the things that have happened in the last month, the tree lighting downtown for Holly Jolly First Friday, the candlelight tour, the duck drop, I just want to commend my fellow citizens on the responsibility that they have shown when they do decide to attend an event in public, the extra care that our citizens take to do their best to social distance and to wear a mask. And, it's, like I said, I think it says a lot about our people and our community. So I just want to thank everybody for that. Doesn't mean we're going to have 100 new events. It just means that when we do have these few things in between that are like traditions, lighting a tree and dropping the duck and fireworks that our citizens do what Americans do best. They make choices that are best for themselves. Some people decide to stay home and watch it on live stream, and some people decide to cautiously attend it in person, and they respect other people's space. So I think that says a lot about who we are as a community, and I commend my citizens for it. We enter a new year, 2021, and everyone has said the same thing. They're so glad to see 2020 go away, and everyone looks at 2021 as a more hopeful year. I have a gut feeling 2021 is going to start off a little slow, but I think that we should be gearing things up towards the middle of the year. As a history teacher, here comes your history story. As a history teacher, I think about a lot of times older citizens, people older than me that have been alive much longer, maybe 80 years or so, and think about, how they view the year 2020. Young people are thinking, man, 2020 was the worst year I've ever seen. And then sometimes I'll reflect on someone who's 85 or someone who's 90 years old, and I wonder what they think. Is this the worst year you've ever seen? Was this worse than 1944? When D-Day and Battle of the Bulge and everyone had a gold star in the window? Or was this worse than 1968? When presidential elections and discord and Vietnam? I mean, I wonder sometimes, like, what the older citizens of our community think about 2020. Because we've had some bad years, for sure, in our nation's history, and just this past century. We don't even have to get into the 1800s. But the one thing I always reflect upon is, and this is what marvels me to no end. And I'll start with a background story. I'll never forget, the stories my grandparents used to tell me about World War II. After Pearl Harbor and the United States declared war, President Roosevelt addressed the nation, and he told the nation that this country is going to mobilize, and we're going to gear up for the war effort, and that when we reach our full production capability, that the United States of America will have the capability to launch a ship a month. That somewhere in this country, we will build and launch a ship a month. President Roosevelt had no idea, but less than a year later, the United States of America was launching a ship a day. Some shipyard, whether it was in Bath, Maine, or Tampa, Florida, or Seattle, or Houston, was launching a ship a day. That's the truth. Car plants and manufacturers stopped making cars. They made Jeeps and tanks and airplanes. DuPont no longer made pantyhose for women. They made parachutes with the nylon for paratroopers. And it wasn't too long ago in March, April, May, that you couldn't go anywhere and find hand sanitizer, toilet paper, wipes. We were completely out of it. Well, and here we are in another spike, a boost in COVID cases, probably even worse in the spring. And I was in the store today, and they might not be name brand wipes, sanitary wipes or hand sanitizers, but we got it. There's toilet paper on the shelves this weekend. It's when there's a need, America is going to meet the need. And I think that was one thing that always marvels me about the resolve and the character of this country. Like, any challenge can be met by the American people. I mean, I was watching the news tonight, and of course, there's some concern about the speed and the process in which the COVID vaccine's been being released. I even hear that in the state of Maryland itself, they may be reevaluating the distribution plan. And just my staff and I earlier were saying, you should give the vaccine to Walmart and Amazon and tell them to distribute it. I guarantee Amazon will have it to you by 6 o'clock tomorrow night. And there's a Walmart in every small town with a parking lot in this country. You want to talk about infrastructure and the ability to distribute. Don't leave it up to the government, I'll tell you that. But, I think 2021 is going to be a good year. I think we're going to mobilize everything. We're going to get the vaccine out. My confidence is extremely renewed in the behavior of my fellow citizens, at least in Havre, Grace, that I've seen so many people being responsible and considerate of other people's safety and concern. Yeah, you might have a few stragglers out there that don't wear their mask, but for the most part, very proud of my community and how we handle things. Proud of my country, proud of the scientists who have worked endlessly, tirelessly to come up with a vaccine to help their fellow humans in such a short amount of time. The technology we've learned from the process of developing this vaccine will leap us light years in medical technology. I mean, mostly because the government gave them billions of dollars to research it, but it will, undoubtedly. So 2021, we are now here, and I think, like I said earlier, it's going to start off a little bit slow, but I think by springtime, early summer, I think we'll be hopefully looking at this in the rearview mirror, I hope. And so I just want to say to my fellow citizens, keep on keeping on. Keep doing what we're doing. You know, the light is at the end of the tunnel. We now see it. And I wish everyone a Happy New Year. With that said, we'll start off with Councilmember Zinner. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, citizens. I wanted to thank the efforts of the State Street Theater for their music presentation and entertainment on New Year's Eve, as well as streaming the duck drop and the fireworks. I was able to view that in the comfort of my home and nice and warm, so I did appreciate that. Wanted to remind everyone who is interested, the Historic Preservation Commission will have a virtual meeting at 7 p.m. on January 12th. An agenda will be published in advance, and the meeting will be live streamed as it has been for the past several months. I want to wish everybody a very happy, healthy, safe New Year, and that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Zinner. Good evening, Councilmember Robertson.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members, ladies and gentlemen here and at home. Just a couple things put out. Number one is that the Budget and Finance Committee meeting tomorrow will be virtual. Everyone on the committee should have received a Zoom link by now. Also, I too want to echo Council Member Zinner's comments. The State Theater did a phenomenal job in streaming, Office Tourism, Public Works, the Alliance, and Main Street. And most of all, shout out to the Susquehanna Hose Company for doing what they do every year to put this together. It was interesting watching the live stream and seeing them rushing around to get everything in order and get their duck in a row. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for everybody that was involved in making that celebration and every celebration here something to remember. And again, Happy New Year's. I hope that this is a better year than the last one. So we shall see.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Robertson. Good evening, Councilmember Martin.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, citizens at home.
Microphone.
Microphone.
Good, buddy.
I want to echo the comments from Councilperson Zinner and Jason Robertson. The duck drop was fun. It was fun to watch it live stream. As you said, we were able to make choices, and that was a nice thing about it. Secondly, the Water and Sewer Commission will be meeting January 15 virtually. You will be able to find the link on the city website later this week. With that, we want to wish everybody a safe and happy New Year.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Martin. Good evening, Councilmember Ringsager.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Martin had told me he was going to say no comment. And I guess I'll have to say no comment.
Let the record show. No comment from Councilmember Ringsager. Thank you very much. Council President, good evening, sir. No comment as well? I'm joking.
I got a few things to say.
Council President always has his comments prepared. I'm joking. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and fellow council members. First off, I want to start out with a Warrior Proud moment. This past weekend, the Havre High School was showcased in the It's Academic Quiz Show. And to the surprise of no one, they walked away with top honors. Congratulations go out to Liam, Zeph, and Alex on a job well done. We're proud, Grace on top. Mr. Mayor, you did mention the duck drop and the fireworks. But another thing that happened on New Year's Eve that I was extremely proud of was our Lights Out initiative. That at 8:20, we turned the lights out downtown, which that's 2020 military time, in memory of all those individuals that lost their lives in 2020. And, while I didn't get as much visibility, it did get a lot of visibility for those family members that lost loved ones. And they reached out to me and said they were really, really touched that this city took the initiative to make sure their family members were forgotten. So, Mr. Mayor, kudos to the city for making that happen. On a sad note, my thoughts and prayers go out to the entire Boyd family. Christopher Boyd, at the young age of 19, was taken from them in a tragic car accident on Christmas Eve. Christopher was a remarkable young man who graduated from Havre High School. He was very active in warrior sports. I had the pleasure of watching Christopher and his brother Aiden wrestle for the Havre High School wrestling team. And he always showed respect and sportsmanship when he took the match. And he was an inspiration for all of us. He leaves behind a tremendous void with his family and, more importantly, the warrior community. His candle burned out long before his memory ever will. And Christopher, I just want to say thank you for sharing your life with us. We're proud. 2020 is now in our rearview mirror. It's a year that many of us would like to forget. We experienced the COVID virus that left a huge void in many families, taking with it precious loved ones. When you turn on the TV, all you would tend to see is violence and hate. Politicians fought with one another to focus on their own personal agendas instead of what was best for all of us concerned, for those that they represented. Again, without a doubt, it was a year that was frustrating for many of us, and I'm personally glad it's behind us. Moving forward, our focus has to be on honesty, integrity, respect, and love for one another. Recently, I watched the warrior and wrestling communities rally around the Boyd family. The overwhelming love and support that was shown to the Boyds should serve as our model moving forward, should serve as an inspiration for all of us to follow as we enter 2021. In a recent interview, Dolly Parton, she indicated that some people just love to hate. It is long overdue to change that. Can you imagine what the world could become if our focus was on honesty, integrity, and respect, and love for one another, instead of violence, hate, and personal agendas? Again, our strategy moving forward has to change that. Therefore, I encourage each and every one, let's use the recent example in our community as a model going forward. In other words, let's lead by example. Trust me, it will undoubtedly pay huge dividends for all of us, and we will be the true benefactors if we do that. In closing, I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody, and Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Council President Glenn, thank you very much for your inspiring words. We're going to move on to item number 18, comments from citizens. Mr. Seipel, have we received any comments from citizens on general city business?
No, sir, there are no comments.
Okay. Item number 19, adjournment. Before I call the roll for adjournment, there's one little factoid I forgot to say under my comments. The firework company person informed me that we were the only city that he knew of in the state of Maryland that shot fireworks off on New Year's Eve. So, for the record, I mean, there we go. I guess we're Havre degrees.
Lead by example, right?
Yeah, I was shocked. I mean, he's like, yeah, so.
Well, we're not the only ones, though. My neighbors celebrated 8:49 p.m.
The only one who legally shot fireworks off in the city. I'm not saying. Yeah, my neighborhood was rocking a little bit too, but yeah. Anyway, that's just wanted the citizens to know that we did it in Havre degrees. So there we go. So motion to adjourn. Councilman Ringsager,
Second.
seconded by CP. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to adjourn carries 5-0 in the affirmative. The time is now 8:09. Meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Happy New Year.